Ted here. Chapter 3, Discover Your Money Temperament. Chapter 3 is titled, It's All About You and Your Money Beliefs. Research indicates that your money beliefs are well established by mid adolescence, and that the factors that influence your belief set with regard to money are your family, obviously, your parents, but most importantly, your peer group, really up through your mid teens. Now, think about that for a second. That could be really scary for some of you. If you grew up in the 80s, that means you grew up during a period when having a starter jacket, a lot of hair, and your first pair of Jordans were driving your money making decisions. Well, the reality is that belief set with regard to money is still influencing you today. So, what I mean by belief set is your collective understanding about money is a very complex collection of your humanness, and we talk about that your thinking, feeling brain, regardless of the impact of your beliefs. Now, if you grew up in a situation where you were always told that you lived in a situation of abundance and you deserve certain things, that's going to influence your belief set. Likewise, culture and environment become critically important. Working with hundreds and hundreds of clients over the course of a number of years, it became obvious to me that, particularly working with the military, a number of my military clients had spouses from different nationalities. And it was amazing to me how the cultural impact of the behavior of the spouse from another country influenced the buying and spending patterns of the other spouse who was born and grew up in the United States. So when we're talking about money beliefs, what you've got to do is sit down and take a hard look at what helps you formulate your belief set with regard to money. Think for a second. What around you causes you to spend the way you do? If you think about it, if you're into Maslow's hierarchy or just the basics on money, you would spend only to keep yourself alive, sustain the organism, keep yourself engaged, and maybe move towards some level of self-actualization. But you wouldn't be spending money on things that were technically frivolous. There are a lot of things we have in our culture that our feeling brain believes you need because the spending is a feeling brain activity, and that's what we do. Think about it for a second. What do you have in your closet that you bought or you own that the only reason you bought it or own it is because everybody else has one? How influenced are you by the spending behavior of others? Not only your parents and siblings, but where you hang out now. How does that impact your belief set? How you believe today with money is simply a reflection of all your past experiences and feelings. I talked about that in the last sessions about those emotional markers. If you had a particularly good experience with a store, a brand, a salesperson, you are hardwired to go back non-consciously or unconsciously to go back to that store, to go back to that brand, to work with that salesperson. Do you ever think about that? Let me ask you, what's your favorite brand of cereal? Do you have one? Why? Do you buy things in your house out of habit? Do you have strong opinions about one brand over another? Why? All of this is a reflection of your natural money temperament. And it's a reflection of your belief set that is a complex collection of events and experiences throughout your life. Ironically, the bad events tend to overshadow the happy events by a factor of about 4-1. Pain and loss hurts about 4 times more than the satisfaction of a happy event. The other thing you need to keep in mind when you're dealing with belief set, we're driven by what is called dopamine. Dopamine is the anticipation drug of choice in our brains. What it does is it gets us excited about the anticipation of buying something and having something. And we get this dopamine hit. And let me put it in context. I don't know if you've ever bought something significant. Let's say a new car. You're in a position to buy a new car. And for the last, number of months, you've been doing your research and you've been doing it online. And these websites are amazing now that you can go in and you can see the pictures and you can hear the sounds and you can watch the videos. Then you can build your car and it becomes your car and you can save it with your name on it. And then you can go back and change it. Well, that's dopamine making you do that because it's a feel-good, anticipatory drug. And then you go down to the dealer. Maybe you don't go in at first, but you go in and you start looking at the vehicles on the lot. You start drooling over them. Dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. Then you finally go in and actually look at the car. And until now, you have not been able to smell it or feel it or really look at it. But that car is there and it's beautiful. It's got your name on it. It smells good. It feels right. It sounds right. You shut that door and it sounds solid. It sounds safe. And it's got all the gee whiz stuff. So you buy it. And when you go through the buying process, even though you did a budget and you did some parameters on what you were going to spend in that car, boy, the finance person was really good. And they showed you how you can get more car with more options for a lower monthly fee by simply just extending the payments a little bit. And you buy that car. And you're excited. Your heart's pounding. Your eyes are dilated. Your brain is pumping out that dopamine and serotonin, and you're feeling great about it. And you drive home. And you don't drive home fast like you usually do. You drive down. It's kind of slow and deliberate. And you're getting to know that car, and you can smell it. And you're driving through the neighborhood. And even though the speed limit in the neighborhood is 25 miles an hour, you never drive 25 miles an hour until today. Because today you got a new car. And now you drive at 20 miles an hour. And you make everybody know who sees you that you have a new car. It's your car. You might even give it a name. Now let's fast forward a week now. You've had the car for a week. And it's feeling good. You love it. Best purchase of your life. And you got online and you rationalized that purchase with all your friends. And all your friends came back and said, that's wonderful. You made a great choice. Wonderful car. Perfect car. It's you. It's your personality. You and the car are now one. And the first weekend, man, you take it out and you get it washed. Not only washed, but you take it and get it detailed and waxed. That's week one. Now let's go ahead a little bit longer. Let's go to the end of the month. Car doesn't quite smell the same. Maybe you got a little ding in it, which caused you great emotional trauma. But you got over it. And you no longer park it as far away from the store or where you work than when you used to. And you stopped getting this thing washed. And now you're back to driving through the neighborhood at 35 miles an hour. And then fast forward a year. It's the car. You don't wash it anymore. The back seat's full of stuff. You don't care if you have open containers. You don't really even care if anybody sees you again. You see, what has happened now, you've gotten comfortable with it. And the dopamine is no longer pumping. Except when the new car commercials are on television or online and you start playing around, do I need a new car? Because a new car has more bells and whistles. And emotionally, you're already in that new car. What you need to understand with regard to money is it's all based on behavior. And we do this with everything. I'm using cars because everybody's familiar with automobiles, but we do it with houses, we do it with clothing, we do it with where we work. You have preferences based on your belief set that reside in your feeling brain, that direct you to certain behaviors and certain products and certain stores and certain biases with regard to your spending pattern. These are all feeling brain activities. Also remember, regardless of where you are with your spending right now, you can change. It may be difficult, but you can change. It's kind of like losing weight and going to the gym. It can happen, but it may be difficult emotionally. It may be difficult physically, but you can change. For most people, it needs a coach, and we'll talk about that later. But remember, you can't change the past. I don't know where you are now today with your spending and how you rationalize where you are. Just because the parking attendant at Nordstrom's knows your name, it doesn't mean that you can't change that behavior. But you can change the past. You can learn from the past. Don't dwell on your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Make peace with them and accept them. They're gone. And you're able to change those feelings. So what I'm trying to keep in mind here when we're talking about your belief set, realize that your perception of money influences or filters your current money choices. Your belief set, which is non-conscious or subconscious feeling brain activity, influences every spending decision you make. And understand that you can change and reframe your perception of spending if you let the negative experience and those negative emotions kind of go away and reprogram yourself to be better with your money. So there you go. Belief sets are important. Next chapter will be chapter 4. Be back in a couple of minutes.